David, good to see you.
Good to see you. Sorry, I'm going to be very rude for a second. Turn my phone off.
No, I appreciate that. Please turn your
That's
phone
okay.
off.
Yeah, you look very professional with your headphones, and I do have a microphone thing. I hope you can hear me properly. I'm
I,
not
ca-
used to
I,
it.
I can hear you perfectly. Yeah, how you
Good.
doing? You're looking well, as always.
Thank you. Not bad, sir. I'm glad when people said that. Often with two kids, you just feel quite dishevelled sometimes. You're just there's children's handprints or snot prints or jam prints or something on you. Just constantly changing shirts and all day. Yeah, so yeah, I'm glad you said that. You're looking well. So where are you at the moment?
I'm in Los Angeles right now, and you
Lovely.
are in a beautiful room that looks like a gorgeous deep grey. Is that right?
Yeah, this is the house I've built, and it sounds a bit wanky. I'm up in the we call it the turret. I've got like this cupola. We built this house, and it's a house from 1925, and it has this copper cupola on top, which is like people call it a dome, a turret, which is overlooking Richmond Park. So yeah, I'm up in the turret room, which is kind of like my new little getaway from kids,
So you're
and
essentially Rapunzel.
that is what my 4-year-old daughter calls this room. It's got a balcony, and she says, "This is my Rapunzel tower." I hope it's not going to be the boyfriend tower one day. That will be my job when I'm a little bit older too.
And so listen, so actually speaking of your home renovations projects, that's something that you've been working on for probably what, 2 or 3 years?
Yeah, two years. Because we bought it. When did we buy it? 2020, just after lockdown. Yeah, it's a big old project. This one. So we got in just before Christmas, and yeah, it will continue. It's not something's never really finished. If I'm totally honest, I renovated my house in townhouse in Fulham, and it was very quick. We did the whole thing in about a year, but it took me probably 5 years to then get it how I wanted it. And after sort of fifth year, after the sixth year, I was like, yeah, I think I'll sell it now, like exactly how I wanted it. And I needed the new project, so I think I prolonged them a little bit. Yeah, you finish the one thing and then you can move on to the other. But no, it's great. It's like for the kids and all the space and the green and the fresh air and everything else. Like if you've got to live in London, it's not a bad place, mate, to live. How's LA treating you anyway?
It's good. Yeah, I'm just working out here. Everything's treating
Yeah.
me. Everything's good. I've no complaints. I was actually thinking back the other day. It's the first time I met you was actually in Dublin when
Yeah.
you had just launched your first. I'm pretty sure your first kind of range at M&S.
Yeah, actually, that I remember that well as well. Yeah, we did a bit of a world tour. We did London, Ireland, Paris, Hong Kong, the States. Yeah, we did a few that time. Yeah, that was our first time with it. You got a good memory.
That was, yeah. And do you know what? I remember exactly what I was wearing, and I remember what you were wearing. That'll tell you an insight into me.
Okay, well, Ireland. Let me think of this one. What was I? Well, I'm not sure. I know I was wearing Paris. I was wearing a grey double breasted. Was it blue?
Yeah, I think it was blue actually. Yeah, you blue, and it
It
was. I
doesn't
think it was
really
a white.
narrow. That doesn't really narrow a man's like wardrobe down, by the way, does it? Like, was it blue? I mean, half my wardrobe is blue, for goodness sake. So,
But I was thinking a lot has changed. A lot has changed since then. He's dropped. A lot has changed. You have two children
I know.
and a busy house and a tourist.
Yeah, no, it has. I suppose that was, what are we talking about? Like 9 years ago, maybe?
I would have said 10. Yeah, so 9 or 10 easily, if not more. If not more.
Yeah, because I mean, so I finished the M&S contract. When was that? So that was 20, and then there was 5 years, 6 years. So yeah, getting
Yeah.
getting into that time there. Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
no, a
good.
lot has happened, and I've been very happy to witness your journey along the way. And obviously, this show is all about the numbers. So I think it's time to crunch some. I know you love a good number. One thing you didn't have was your own kind of immediate brood when we first met. Obviously, now you've got two young girls. When it comes to your family, what is a meaningful number for you?
Immediate family. In my sort of when I was growing up, for some reason seven. This is before the girls came along. This is my mum and dad. Seven came up all the time. It still does, weirdly. But I think I noticed the number seven. So then anything that comes up with number seven, I think this is going to be good. Because I will go into like a meeting room. It'll be, oh, your meeting room seven. I'll be like, good. This meeting is going to be positive. It's going to be a positive meeting. So I probably go in with a different mindset already. But my sister was born on the 7th. I passed my driving test on the 7th. When I got to university, my room was 007. And
Oh, that's a
I
good omen.
I didn't actually enjoy university, but it was a good room. Yes, it comes up so quite a bit. I mean, even the year sort of light blue came out about. That was when we did the campaign. That was we shot the commercial, should I say, not the campaign. We shot the commercial that then came out in there's a bit of a link sort of there as well with number seven. So that in sort of my family time throughout my life, the number seven have always been I suppose, yeah, I was quite lucky in some ways. Well, my sister was born on the seventh. I'm not sure if that's lucky or not, depending on how we're getting on at the time. Really, that was when we were growing up. I didn't think it was lucky, but we get on that. So
Are you just two kids?
just two, two's enough.
What did you study at university?
I studied multimedia computing marketing.
I mean, so I know you said you didn't enjoy it, but I mean, it stood to you in some capacity, I'm sure.
No, not at all. But I say the only thing I learned at university was that I shouldn't have gone to university. That's all I kind of learned from university. Was that it just felt like a not a waste of time. I shouldn't say that because people go to university, they enjoy it. It just wasn't for me. I think we push higher education. We push that on everyone. It's like it's a natural thing we all do, whether it's good for you or not. To me, I had this whole world I wanted to explore and all these opportunities. And university was not part of a goal that I needed to achieve to go and do that in many ways. I knew I was never going to be at desk job. I probably knew I was not going to have a boss, so that I needed to be self-employed. And I needed to explore. I was just curious. And university, I sort of got there. I was like, right, well, so what am I in this week? 10 hours? But you're kind of stuck, in that area. And yeah, it just wasn't for me.
That's so interesting. We had polar opposite experiences. I feel like my life began when I went to university. Like honestly, like I had been in this all boys Christian Brothers school, kind of hellish, like for a young Gayling like myself who didn't even know what I was, but I was, I was leaning towards, I think I might be homosexual, and, follow your gut, as they say. And then when I went to university, for starters, it was mixed, there was men and women, and that just took so much pressure off. And then I just enjoyed myself for 4 years, probably drank far too much. And here I am. I mean, what? No comment.
I enjoyed the Freshers Week. It just all went down a bit hill after Freshers Week, really. I sort of remember turning up to, I still remember it was MM 101, which was like multimedia computing. And it was 2 weeks of Freshers Week, and I was sort of there just going, could someone turn the lights down? And a lot of people coding with their computer. I don't even think I had a computer. I was literally there computing multimedia. I don't even think I had a laptop at that time. So just lots of, I was like, oh, this might have been a great It was like astutely looking where the world was going with computers and multimedia, digital. It was quite astute to go and read something like computing, knowing where the world was going. It was just not my.
Did you always want to go down the road of modelling?
No, it was never modelling. I mean, I was a housemate of mine from university for a competition. Modelling competition, I knew nothing about it. It wasn't too much long away from so we down to the 10 for this modelling competition. But I was desperate. And to that point, I was like, yeah, anything that I knew nothing about fashion, I knew nothing about the fashion world, nothing about the industry. I think everyone has these lovely ideas for the industry, lovely ideas of modeling. I think really, but we're all inspired by clothing. I love style. I always loved design. I studied art and graphics and all the different things. So I knew that design and vision and everything architectural, cars, I had a massive interest in. I just didn't really know that's where I should have gone. I should have done something with car design. I should have done something with car engineering, just design as a whole, really. So yeah, I mean, I've ended up doing that really in a roundabout sort of way. But no, then I sort of came out of that and then won the competition and saw what I thought was a good opportunity, really. But at 21, when I came into the industry, nearly 22, it looked fun. When you were traveling and everything I wanted to do, really, at the end of the day.
Was it fun?
No, there were. It was for 5 years. It was. I paid my dues. Let's put it that way, and it was a grind. I think everyone kind of thinks that I came out of university or I chucked into the modeling industry, and I was a bit like Kate Moss, I was doing Calvin Klein, I was doing Dolce, and it wasn't like that at all. It was a lot of hard work and a lot of dedication, and it was afterwards. That's when I got light blue in 2016. That's when the work actually really started. So
let's talk about that. So when we talk about the number that changed your life, I think, and changed your career, it is 2006, 2007, right?
Yeah, definitely. That was the period. That was the time when all the work and everything we had done, and I'd say we, because we were working that as an agency, but my agency as a team. That was the time that it all came to. It was like finally, all those dreams that everyone thought modelling was, on a speedboat from Naples to Capri, shooting with Mario Testino. I'd never shot with a big photographer before. I'd never been on that sort of. I'd been on location, but not to that extent. This is what the female supermodels were doing. This is what I always wanted to aim for. They set the standards, they set the platform, and yeah, then suddenly we were on a speedboat with Mario Testino going over to Capri to shoot that, and obviously we did not know it was going to be the success it was, but you knew it was special when we were shooting because it was just very different to anything that anyone was shooting. It was a major time, yeah. So 2016, but there's other years because there were so many moments in other years that I know led to that. So you can go back in all those years, but if you had to say 2 years that changed everything, it was those years, of course.
And when that campaign came out, did your career change overnight, would you say?
Yeah, it did. I know people saying that, people do say that, though, something changed overnight, but it literally was people not knowing who I was to then press and journalists and everyone wanting interviews and to know who the light blue guy was and who the guy in the white pants was and who this guy was. And then they found out I was English, of course. So then all the English papers and English journalists were all interested. Why though? Because everyone thought I was Italian. So it was an intriguing story. And yeah, so we've gone from there, and it did kind of change everything, and it put me in a little bit more control of the situation, more than I always say you want to be in control of the industry shouldn't be in control of you, and that's pretty much before you were told where to go, what to do, what to wear, and I wanted an input, and I knew from the female supermodels that you had to brand. That was how you differentiate yourself from other models. Your competition is that you're bringing something to a brand. You're bringing a gravitas, not just a face. So that's why eventually people would be like, I say David Gandy sometimes in a third person because that's what we were building. We were building this brand, and we had to do everything from there. So that is when the real hard work started. But it was fun. It hasn't really stopped from there. Really.
I mean, it's an iconic image. It's an iconic TV advert, and obviously, you're in your little white skimpies. Has anyone? Because it kind of puts you in this place of very much visceral desirability, right? People that have seen you. Did anyone ever cross the boundaries? Were people throwing themselves at you?
No. I think there's also. I was older at the time. Of course, when you talk about models and modelling, you can start very young. You're talking models now, 15, 16, 17. At that age, I was, 25, 20, 26, 27, to be honest. So I was always a more mature head on shoulders than than other people anyway. And by that stage, I suppose no one really took advantage of that situation. I don't think they would have if it was someone else. I'm not saying they would have. Listen, it's one of those, it's an industry where people can, it's an industry like the music industry, like the film industry, the modeling industry, is where people's lives can be changed very, very quickly. And it wasn't just the lure of the money, it was the lure of fame, celebrity, and people can take advantage of that. It's not just the modeling industry that can happen. There's lots of industries in many, many forms. So yeah, but no, it's one of those industries you become as well very, I suppose, nonchalant about. You're very self-aware. You have to be, but also I remember with light blue, you were looking at the swimming, the small swimming shorts. It took about 3 hours of changing swimming shorts, and someone just looking at your crop. Should that one be, should that. The pulleys, should that be slightly longer? Should it be tied? Let's take a picture. Let's get to, and down to that. That's how it used to be in the industry as well, like that pedantic about how things should be. And there's nothing, that no one's being perverted or anything else like that. It's just, that is what someone is, that's the area you're looking at. And that's how precise they are. And everyone's seen it all before in many ways. So, yeah, you can't be shy in this business. That's the thing as well. And I am quite a shy person. So, of course, something like that is, but it's just quite, you look back at it and sort of laugh at some of the sort of situations you're in. Like at the time, you're like, why, we spent 2 hours now choosing a pair of swimming shorts.
What do you think?
But those swimming trunks became as iconic as the picture. So you can see why the importance of those were played out, really. I don't see it as important. You could put anything on, but with the advert, if I had a pair of shorts on, longer shorts or whatever, You know, a bit like Daniel Craig in James Bond, you know, the skimpy bearer of the
Hmm.
tight blue swimming shorts. That's now an iconic image of Bond coming out. It all looks very easy, as if it's you know, it's been done by accident, but it's not. It's all thought about. So yeah, it's a fascinating process.
Do you ever think, I always have these thoughts sometimes. I'm like, what, like when your daughters are like adults and they're looking through books or whatever, and they spot you and they're like, "Oh my God, there's dad." Like, there's dad. Do you ever think what will go through their mind?
I think when kids grow, my children are probably too young to understand it. You know, they see me on the television, billboards and stuff, and it's just dad. You know, it's just like, oh, there's dad on the television, or there's dad on the billboard, or something like that. They're too young. My niece and nephews have sort of they grew up more so sort of getting to know like their uncle as they knew me, and people be like, well, look, there's David in that big poster from that shopping, and they'd be like, yeah, okay, great. Like it wasn't anything to them. You know,
Hmm.
that was my job, and to my extent, that's where I very much kept those two sides. You know, my personal life very private to my business life, and
Hmm.
that is one person persona, and something is that's left all behind after that. You know, that's it's you're playing a role in some ways in modeling. You know, it sounds very strange, but you know, it's like acting. It's like you know, that person was this Mediterranean, um, you know, sort of Italian masculine man kind of thing, and you're playing that role, and that's
And
often what you
I'm
know the same thing. You know, it's where you empower yourself by putting on a suit or something. You
hmm.
feel something coming on in that shoot. If someone says, "Well, we're doing a James Dean or a Steve McQueen, or this is your inspiration, this is that," you do change in some way to play that role, and that's the fun side of it. But and there is always there's a slight ego to that, and you have to, I believe. I always think you never want that ego to take control. That's where a lot of people make mistakes. But you have to have that confidence. Confidence, ego, you know, kind of sometimes the same thing. People take it too far, but I think you almost have to have that on a shoot sometimes as that confidence to really sort of put it off. And you learn really, and I've said this to so many young models who come and model for Wellwear. I said, look, you'll feel embarrassed. This is a very, especially for men, unnatural thing. We're asking you to maybe dance or do something stupid or take your top off or do all these things. I said, you know, you have to have the confidence and that creative at that time, especially you know when I shot with Mario Testino, is that they are going to make you look the best they can. That's all I've ever said to models. I'm never going to put something out there that you won't like or you're feeling embarrassed about. Just do it and have the confidence to do it. Don't worry about looking like a bit of an idiot, even on
Hmm.
castings or anything else. Just push the boundaries and to be uncomfortable in some ways because it is pushing you where you don't want to be, and people restrain from that. And that's why I had to learn that really at the end of the day. And my way of dealing with that is just going into my shell, getting a little bit angry about people asking me to do something. Um, you know, I've been in situations where I've had to like lovely situations, but horrible in my situation where like dancing with J Lo, one of the biggest dancers, entertainers in the world, and she's going into this dance routine, and they're like, David, dance with her, and I'm like, oh my god, like, you know, this isn't like another model. This is one of the biggest entertainers ever, and I make a joke of it, you know. And so if I stood back and got angry, and went, oh, I'm not doing that. It's very hard. So I just have to get involved and
Yeah.
chuck myself in it, and you know, you see a snippet of what actually you're seeing.
Where can we
Um,
see you dancing with J-Lo?
where was I dancing with Jada? I'm not sure if it actually came. So we did the Dolce & Gabbana eyewear campaign. There was a video towards that. I left her. I think they probably edited me out. Hopefully, and then I did her music video many years ago, which was fun. She asked me to go and do that for her. So
That is a very nice invitation. Is rejection something you have to deal with much?
yeah, of course, yeah, yeah. In
Hmm.
modelling, you have to deal with that. You have to deal with that maybe 20 times a day.
And how do you deal with it? Like, what's your kind of mental model to not let it stop you?
I think you have to look at it as it's never personal, really. At the end of the day, when I'm now casting for Wellwear, and you have a vision in your head. Again, we're going back to playing a role. You have a creative. That creative will change season to season. But when that person walks in and puts your clothing on or acting a certain way, it's just the look, how they're looking that day, is that person is perfect for that role, perfect for that casting. And it's nothing personal against anything else. There are personal times when you are you're doing the rounds in New York and you're having 25 appointments and you're going around and you've got shin splints because you're walking so much and you turn up to an appointment that you're very excited about and they just go, yeah, thanks. Literally look at 2 pictures and pass it on. Now, I'm never like that. I probably overcompensate a little bit because I know what it's like to be in that position. So I'm always, like, have a cup of tea, come and sit down. Let's talk about, like ask them a lot of questions. So yeah, it's rejection, but it's never personal. At the end of the day, you've got people got to see that. But probably a young model, a young person, you don't really understand that. I think you have to get used to that in many ways. You have to have very thick skin.
Yeah. Now, when it comes to love, what's your number?
I don't know. What should I say? 3, because that's my family moment, Steph, and the 2 girls and my 2 daughters. There is, I suppose, when it comes to love, you cannot. I don't think anyone underestimates. It's a very hard thing to explain. I never understood it before I was a father. As soon as that little thing is handed to you, your job is change completely in life, bettering yourself, looking after yourself, or looking after your partner and yourself, to just protecting that little person and wanting the best thing for that person, that little person. And then another one comes along, and it's the same thing. It's just this overwhelming love for anything that if someone said to you, you have to chuck yourself in front of that bus to save your daughters, you go, yeah, no problem. You do it. There wouldn't even be a thought about it, and you can't explain that to anyone. It's irrational. Yeah, that's probably it, really.
That's really beautiful. It's a really lovely way of putting it. Yeah, it is. It is.
Like, yeah, there are also days when I was like, who wants them? Can I do, like, does anyone want to adopt them? Does anyone want to give me a day off? That would be nice.
So what are your kind of daily essentials? So, like, for me, I have to have my coffee in the morning before I speak to anyone, and I have to, coffee and a banana. It's a winning combination. And this morning, because obviously we're on different time zones, I was up at a time this morning that I haven't seen in years, unless I was coming home. Kind of, what do you need in your day to kind of set it up right?
God, coffee is yeah, definitely a coffee. My espresso machine is I literally. There's somehow, I'm in bed with the kids, or the kids are in bed with us, and there's a time when they wake you up, and I literally pick up both of them now, like wander downstairs, but it's to the coffee machine, and I put the waffles in for the kids whilst I'm not making much sense at that time. But then the thing is with kids as well is they just seem to wake up like that, and they're fully awake and fully alert. It takes me about an hour, about 5 coffees later, and then I'm like, okay, I've never been a morning person. I'll put it that way. I love the mornings, but I don't say much. It takes me. I'm much more of a night owl. I've never slept much or gone. I like the night, and so yeah, it's. But I got to be careful. Like sometimes it is that sometimes I get to the end of the day and realise that I actually haven't eaten much, but I've had about 6 coffees. Like it's got me throughout the day. I've been so busy, which is the other side to it that you don't want to be. But
fitness? Do you work out every day?
Try to. Obviously, with the kids as well. That's so I've always been. So now, really, the only time I do have, I can work out, because people say, why don't you work out in the mornings? You go, well, I've got 2 young children waking you up at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. And I walk my dog every day, like every morning. That's really luckily. I've always come out to Richmond Park, and we're now right on the park. So I do a 3.5 mile, 4 mile walk with her every day. And I'm still working during that time. That sets up a lovely morning. There's a tiny little coffee shop in the middle, called Pond's Coffee Shop in the middle of Richmond Park. So that's why I head towards for my sort of 3rd coffee. Do my kind of like morning call with some morning meetings, which is a nice way to start the day. But it's always been sort of nighttime. Then now it's bedtime for the kids. Make some dinner with Steph, and I go off to the gym. It might be 9 o'clock, 8:45, hour workout, and then back. So yeah, and it's quite it's not the ideal time, but it's where I sort of can only do it at the moment. I'm slacking a bit at the moment.
Oh, you're looking well. I think you're doing just fine, David. Just fine. Tell me, has your definition of success, or how you define success, changed since becoming a father?
I think your success is children. That will go on, really. You can do your best in your own. That's not just down to you. And I suppose it is. But no, I suppose in some ways, success in the modelling industry was never money or rotation for me. It was never, the lure of the money. I always said it was. Sometimes I said no to to campaigns with lots of money and no to brands, just because I didn't believe in. I very much believe that when you're in the public eye, you have to be responsible as well. Responsible about what you're advertising to. We call them influencers now, but we are all influential in many ways, and we are selling items and selling brands. And so I've always gone down the messaging of fitness and regime and wellness. It's why I'm a model for Vitibiotics, and that came about because randomly met, they were coming out of a meeting, and I said to Tej, I was like, I love your Wellman products. I've been using them since I was 20. And we were just like, great. And that's how the first conversations came about. And that's what we used in the campaign. I've been taking them since I was 20. So everyone thinks that's just a line. It's not. It's how I almost got the campaign for them to become ambassador. So I've very much sort of stayed away from, I've been offered fizzy drinks and cigarettes and ice creams and chocolate and everything else. But being I'm a believer in eating healthily and well and not advertising this sort of thing. So we've been pretty careful about what I influence or who I influence.
Mm-hmm. That I mean, for me, the word that kind of springs to mind when I hear you say that is obviously integrity. You're maintaining your integrity throughout your choices in your career, which I think is a very important thing. And obviously, you have stood the test of time, and you've had you've not been a flash in the pan. In the days of, and it's something that you referenced, in the days of social media, do you find it has become more difficult to really hold on to that essence, or have you used social media as a means to kind of reinforce that?
Good question. I used social media. No, it's been very organic. The following I have, I hate the word organic, but it is a very organic following. If I can come off of social tomorrow, so I use it for business sense. And it is, I suppose, it's a great tool for getting the messaging across. But I think I've built what people perceive my brand to be years before social media. I had to do that without social media, of course. So we do it the old-fashioned way with magazines and press and campaigns and stuff like that. And it was back in the day. When you're talking about now, everyone is after numbers. Really, brands I think have lost that slightly bit of integrity of hiring the right person to represent their brand. I think a lot of brands are just looking for numbers. What's their following? What are their? Doesn't matter who they are, what they represent, or what their branding is representing, or integrity that we were just talking about. It's how many people can we reach at the end of the day, and that's what a lot of brands are looking for now. So that creativity, of course, I think has been lost. When we talk about the light blue campaign as being an iconic campaign, there were lots of, there's been so many iconic campaigns, so much creativity over the years, from Abaddon, Bruce Weber, Mario Testino, Mariano Vivanco, books of thousands of images, all the Vogue covers, and all that. And we're losing that, and we have lost it. So, there's exhibitions of all this work, but I think we're going to lose that because it's just it leads to disposable creativity, and no one is about longevity. No, like so many brands are just sort of talking about not even sort of 6 months. When we used to talk about your usage of 6 months or a year, I mean, people don't even want it for 6 months. They're literally like 3 months, maybe a month. Post it and it's gone. They're working on the next one, which is going to be posted a week later and a week later and a week later. And this is what people presume that people want. But then I could argue with that we've been going for since 2006 with the light blue campaign. It's not, we've shot that campaign many times. What people don't realize Dolce have done absolutely brilliantly is that it's not the same campaign. It's not the same girl. We've used 3 different girls in the light blue campaign until we got to like Bianca, who is incredible. And we've been working since 2012, and they changed the story to me from being the dominant man to her being more the dominant woman, to then much more of a equal sort of spacing within the campaign, and it changed the dynamic of the story. And it's very clever how they've just tweaked it a little bit to engage with people and still move the creative on. So people every year are still intrigued about where me and Bianca, what are we doing? What's the update of the love story, which it was. And then you can you compare that to brands now who aren't even looking at 3 months. But we've been going for 16, 17 years.
I sometimes feel like you're following me around the world, because regardless of what airport I'm in, you pop up. I'm like, oh, there's David. How's it going? Or I'm in the tube and it's your the wellness. It's like you're omnipresent, which I love. And actually, I meant to say this to you. I meant to take a picture at the time, but I was
Yeah.
walking down Sunset here in West Hollywood, and there's this amazing kind of advertising billboard on the side of the Pendry Hotel, and it's
No,
like
yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
ginormous screen. And sure, there you were. I can see why they were being very pedantic about the placing of your white speedos. Let's just say.
I like everything they're large, Darren. Like that's good. I
You
like
look
some. What's the diner? Sorry, I'm going off a tangent. What's the diner down Sunset? There's a famous old like proper American diner on Sunset.
Mel's.
Is it Mel's?
Mel's Diner. Yeah.
Stuff Mel. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah. Oh,
everyone
yeah.
goes to LA and goes to the lovely restaurants. I'm just there at 11 o'clock for like a two egg, a two egg with.
I love the old diners too. I love them.
Yeah.
David, tell me, what ages in particular have been significant for you and why?
What ages? I suppose I think I always say 30 years of age is when I stopped. I was more comfortable in my own skin, and it was a time when I could be. It was a nice time, but it was 4 years after Light Blue. I built the brand. The businesses were going well. I had experience. I was a little bit more respected with the industry, so I was sort of pushing the boundaries of where we could go and what we could do. And at 30, I kind of thought, I don't care what people think really about me. This is who I am. And you have that confidence. Your 20s is kind of fun, but I think you're kind of worrying. You're playing, you're maybe following a group, you're following a pack, or you're following other people. You're then determined. 30 was that time where I was like, no, it's about being an individual. And so I think that was probably the time I sort of resonated with the most. Really, I can't think of any other years that were where I actually had that thought, like, okay, time to maybe just grow up. I don't know, but any other I can't really think of. I suppose 11. For some reason, I say so when I was 10 years old, I was at the end of junior school. I just remember I'm really enjoying that 10, 11-year-old before going to high school. I sound very American, but senior school. Again, I can't quite tell you why, but 11, like 10, 11-year-old, I sort of remember enjoying a lot. And then I suppose the other ages, when I did Light Blue again, which was when I was 25, 26, and that was the year that sort of changed a lot.
Any regrets when you look back from like when you see your like 30, 40-year-old self?
I don't really believe in regret. I think everyone looks back at times and wish they maybe had done something differently. That's just experience, I think. I think as long as you learn from mistakes, I think that's the most important thing. If you've made mistakes and you know you've made them, make sure you don't make them again. Make sure you give advice to other people so hopefully they don't make them, even though they probably won't listen and probably will, and that's how you have to learn in life. So no, I don't believe in that. I've learned more from making mistakes and not continuing those mistakes and moving on, learning from them. This goes in business, this goes for personal life, it goes for everything. And continuing from there. So I don't think there's been any regrets, I don't think.
Is there any number that you wish you could forget?
The number, it sounds a bit zero, because I remember I played a lot of cricket when I was young, and I was captain of my town and school, and we got to the final. And up to that point, I played really well.
Sorry.
Yeah. And then in the final, I was more bowler than batter, but I was decent at both, but more bowling. And I just remember in the final, I got 0 wickets and I got 0 runs, and we lost the final. And it's always been in my head that it wasn't my day that day. Yeah, so 0. Always bugged me. Always bugged me that one.
Do you still play?
No, not for many, many years. Unfortunately, no. I used to play to a decent level, to be honest, and still follow it. Still love cricket. Trying to explain cricket to people if they've never experienced it, especially like a 4-day text match. When, like, if you're spending, American friends of mine will come over and I'll take them to the cricket and they'll say, how long does it last? I'm like, 4 days. And they're like, sorry, 4 days? And I'm like, yeah, it's hard to explain.
I mean, I have no idea what happens in cricket. I'm not going to lie to you. I no idea. Absolutely no idea.
I won't explain the leg before wicket or Google this to you then, Darren. It sounds a little bit weird, but yeah.
But hold on, didn't Ireland win the Cricket World Cup at one stage?
No, I don't know. I think they got thrashed by England the other day. I don't.
Oh, there you go. There was some sort of victory, clearly, because I remember thinking, sorry, what? Cricket? No one plays cricket.
I know I didn't have a team. England played them the other day. You have a very good rugby team, so that's we'll go with that one.
Oh, you're so funny. What's the number that changed your life, David?
Well, I mean, The number that no one will probably believe, and that we're sort of going back to doing, it wasn't about doing something for money, right? And it was what led to Light Blue was the Dolce& and Gabbana campaign, the apparel campaign in 2005, which I shot with Stephen Meisel. And we shot it in LA. We were flown across. Now, for that campaign, so everyone looks at these billboards and thinks you'll pay a wonderful amount of money, but I was an absolute nobody at the time, and shot for Dolce& and Gabbana. It was a dream, and I got paid €900 for the worldwide campaign. And I also remember that I had to stay an extra night in the hotel because I had to go shoot something else, and I had to pay that myself. So then I had to change a flight, and I had to change that flight, and it actually cost me money to shoot that campaign. But I just always remember it was 900. After you take your commission off from your agency, it was €900, and that's what I got paid. So that surprises people so much. Why would you do it for that? But you have to have the foresight that is going to lead to hopefully something else, and it does for most of the models who shoot Dolce & Gabbana. The gravitas, the prestige of shooting for Dolce, and of course that led to Light Blue. But there could be other people that said, I'm not shooting the campaign for €900. Like, they would refuse to do it. But you have to look at the bigger picture.
You saw the opportunity.
Yeah, it's like, every editorial, every cover of magazine, my father finds this astonishing that you get paid nothing for shooting those campaigns, for shooting a magazine or an editorial. So all these covers I've done in my career, and all these covers that you see of models and editorials, it's just kind of personal PR. It's building your brand, it's building your imagery, and you get paid nothing for it, which again sounds very strange to people.
What did your mum and dad do when you were growing up?
They were, I suppose, one of the better word, entrepreneurs. They started businesses. My dad started businesses from a very young age. They were freight forwarders, so import and export. They then went into property over in Florida, travel companies and stuff like that. So, but I saw them working. They were always at home because they worked from home a lot, and then they had offices. But that was my family is about grafting, about working. And that's what we all do, to be honest. We have to. So I saw my mum, they were around a lot. We always had dinner, which was lovely together. They made sure we always were. But there probably wasn't a dinner for 10 years and my dad didn't have to go and take a phone call. That's how hard they work. And, I saw them work from 7 o'clock in the morning until they were on American hours at one point, until midnight. That's how my parents worked. And so it was very normal for me to do the same. That's how I grew up. It's like you work.
So entrepreneurship is in your blood.
Well, working for yourself, I suppose. I think my whole family, my 2 cousins, they both own their own companies. I do. My dad did. My mum is with my dad in his companies. My sister and her husband run their own companies. So yeah, I suppose it might be in the family, if I'm totally honest. Whether it's entrepreneur, which is a word used a little bit too much nowadays, but even just working for yourself, which is tough. You know how it is. You're freelance. It sometimes sounds a lot lovelier than it actually is. Really, you don't really know sometimes where the paycheck is coming from or where you're going to be. Or
you know what though, I wouldn't change it for the world. I left the last time I was in full-time gainful employment as an employee. I was 24.
Okay.
And I left, and I remember I'd just gotten a mortgage at the time. Can you believe it? I was 24. I had just gotten a mortgage, secured this mortgage. I'm like, right, I've got this now. I'm out of here. And I got offered this job. I had this serendipitous meeting with this man. His name is Philip Camp, and I'd wanted to work in TV. And I had a meeting with him through my old job, bumped into him. The next day he called me and he offered me a job. And it was a 3-month contract. And I said, so I have a few thoughts on this. Thank you very much for the call and for the offer, but I would be willing to accept it if you gave me a year's contract, right? And this is TV, like it was a TV show. And he went, I can't offer you a year's contract. I'll offer you a 3 months contract, but I can pretty much guarantee you that there'll be more work afterwards. And I said, okay, I'm in. I've never been an employee since. And I think I would struggle.
The last employed job I had, I was a pizza deliverer when I was about 16, 17. Yeah, that was it for me. My CV is not impressive whatsoever. Like pizza deliverer 2023. That's basically it. Like pizza deliverer. But no one can give me any references whatsoever.
I think you speak for yourself at this point. When it comes to numbers that you check regularly, David, is there anything that that crops up for you.
Everything is checked now, and that's how it is. Owning a clothing business is everything is about numbers, from the budget that we can afford to going on into seasons, to how much we can buy, to how much we can afford to spend on marketing, to what we're selling each day. Everything is new. Like all the accounts of all the companies we have is being checked. It's very. I'm not particularly number minded, financially minded. I'm good at finance, but um, it's become very, very. We're looking like literally spent half a day looking at financial models for today, being like going through trying to get a model work for one of our investments, and it's a lot has changed in that respect, but that's businesses, and that's I'm more invest in the people and invest in the brand. I have a lot of investment, so I have to do a lot of due diligence, and they have to do it on my company as well. So yeah, everything's numbers now, really. Just checking. Really.
And David Gandy Wellwear, which I own several pieces of, I have to say, and that's one of yours that you're wearing now.
It is.
Yeah, I identified it. I could spot it. Congrats! It's a lovely, lovely brand. I mean, a lot of people will think, given your pedigree and your experience in the business, and the fact that you've worked with Dolce & Gabbana and whatnot, that to launch your own brand must be a piece of cake, which I'm assuming is not at all the case. Is it a struggle?
It's not a struggle. We're not struggling. We're doing well. But trying down, you all know this. It's too. The starting point is great, and if you do very well or do well, that's just the first step of it. You don't have the major investment immediately ever that you need to grow 10 times the size of the first step. So that just carries on taking investment after investment after. So yeah, it's a hard game fashion. It really is. We're trying to almost predict or encourage people to wear something 6 months, down the line. You haven't even sold. We're in a point at the moment where we're designing. I mean, almost spring 2024. We already know what we've got autumn and winter, but we haven't even sold summer 2023 yet. So that's how kind of difficult it is. But we're essentially, like what we're doing at Wellwear. We're meeting for the first time. We've met wellness and apparel for the first time, hence the name Wellwear, and we're doing things how I believe things should be done, not fast fashion. We have to get away from that. We really, really do. And that's, it's something that we're doing in Wellwear. And we're saying we can make, very stylish, quality, comfort, sustainable, responsible clothing with this technology of Wellwear behind it, with aloe vera in pajamas and loungewear and antibacterial in the sweatshirts and the stuff that you have. It's a new virtual category of clothing, which of course takes time, and we've been going 18 months, really. So we're a very new company. So yeah, it's the hardest thing I've done. Let's put it that way. But yeah, it's difficult.
David, before we wrap up, I'm keen to know, what's the number one lesson that took you the longest to learn in life?
Unfortunately, it's not going to be a positive on this one, and I'm learning this more every day, especially having a business, is that the amount of people that you can trust with a lot of stuff is very, very small, very, very. Even if you sometimes think that trusting someone, they can surprise you. More the way that I think the favors you do for people, and I suppose what I'm trying to say is never expect the way you treat people for them to treat you the same way. And I think, unfortunately, I wish that was different. And there's still some great people, and there are still some people that do treat you very, very well. But that gets smaller and smaller at the end of the day. And, I think that's what you learn. I don't think I've still learned it. I still think I probably live slightly in la la land, thinking that everyone is going to think the same way I do and treat people very well. I know, there's certain people. You are one of them. You're a very kind person. You've supported my brand. We don't have to. You ask me to do something, I'll do it for you.
Thank you.
I'll ask you. You do the same thing. That's the way we want to help each other. That's not the mindset of a lot of people. And unfortunately, yeah, I wish I had a more positive note on that, really. But it's working for you. That is, I suppose, the more you learn, is that the more you have to take on yourself, and the more you have to do yourself. Yeah.
Well, I unfortunately can relate to a lot of what you're saying there, but what I will say also is that little La La Land bubble, I protect it. It's my little shrine. I'm staying here, and go with your own flow and your own gut. I think that's the best compass in life.
That's it. And you should never. I think if you dwell on something like that,
Yeah.
it's and that's what if it doesn't get you down, they always say, you perseverance is getting knocked down. It's around time you just get up and keep on going and keep on going and keep on going. And yeah, but that's what I've learned, I suppose.
I love it. Well, what a lovely note to end on. David, thank you so much for your time. And
Thank you so much.
I'll share links and details of everything and Wellwear. People need to check it out. And it's very comfy and it's perfect, actually. I wore my David Gandy Wellwear sweater, matching navy sweater and shorts after the pool the other day. It was Pride. Hey, girls!
You had the toweling set on you.
Yes, yeah, it was fabulous. It was perfect. Yeah.